Morning everyone, my name is Michelle. I hope you're doing well. Welcome to another video. It is Sunday morning, middle of a ploughed field. It's kind of nice, kind of breezy. Got my fancy pants lapel mic on, so hopefully the wind noise is okay. I want to talk about Jodisue today. There's a serious point to this, a very serious point to this. Two serious points. Let's talk about two serious points. The reason why loads of people have focused on Jodisue and unravelling Jodisue's lies is because she's been inconsistent again and again and again. She's been an absolute nightmare for Summer's case. From day one, she inserted herself, she made Facebook videos, she made herself part of Summer's case. She was there to lie or mislead Don. She was there to talk to Candice. She was there to say the parents are not involved. I know they're not involved. When in the next breath, she hardly knew the parents. There's so many ways in which Jodisue has infiltrated Summer's case. She's made herself look guilty, whether or not she has anything to do with Summer's disappearance or knows anything at all about it. She's been online doing live after live after live since September. Nothing wrong with that. Giving her opinion about the case, but billing herself as an expert on the case. No. You know, and if the Kylie Rodney case had not concluded, if Kylie hadn't been found, and Sammy, Kylie's so-called friend, hadn't shut her mouth, you know, at least she had the common sense to shut her mouth after she made a lot of inconsistent details to people, she would have gone the same way as Jodisue. She was giving me Jodisue vibes. Even if Sammy has absolutely nothing whatsoever to do with Kylie's unfortunate ending up in Prosser Reservoir, she's done exactly the same as what Jodisue's done. But she had the common sense, or someone had the common sense, to stop her quickly. But Jodisue, since day one of Summer's disappearance, has not stopped. She has not stopped. And that's how we all know Jodisue. In the Summer's case, that's why lots of creators talk about her. Lots of creators tried to help her when she started to talk about how abusive her relationship had been. What a monster Andy was, who she'd been together with for 26 years. Absolute monster, terrorised her children. I firmly believe that Jodisue would still be with Andy if he hadn't left her. He was the one that ended the relationship. Now, apparently they've broken up before and they've got back together. But this time, Andy's making a life with someone else. Someone called Becca. Someone that Jodisue despises. Well, it must be hard. Let's be fair. It must be hard. They've been together for 27 years. And she's now seeing Andy getting on with his life. But she's the one that took out the order of protection against Andy. She's the one that reacted in a jealous, spiteful, horrible way. Yeah, must be a devastating thing to be left after 26 years. I get it. I do get it. But then after all of this, she was evicted from 125 Ben Hill Road from Andy's mother, whose property it is, because she should be nothing to do with the Bernal family. She doesn't own any of that land, contrary to things she said. So why should she stay there when, you know, Polly's son has had an order of protection taken out against him? It's sad. It's really sad, because There's a 14-year-old girl right in the middle of all of this. And she has not been able to see her dad for over a year. He wants to see her, he says he loves her, he wants to see her. Allegedly, she doesn't want to see him. It's really sad that that girl is there in that camper with Jodisue day after day after day. And that girl should be just a normal teenager. So who knows what effect all of this will have on that girl in the future. You know, Jodisue says some very, very hurtful things, very concerning things, frightening things even. I don't watch Jodisue on the regular like I used to. I only dip in and out of her content if there's something, you know, interesting that's being said on other channels. But this is the second thing and the really alarming thing that I want to talk about. And that is
a few moments later.
And that is a cliffhanger, because I've been talking for about 5 minutes and not realised that the camera had switched off. Anyway, start again. So the second thing, the most alarming thing, in my opinion, is the way that Jodisue and Andy are now, it's like sparring via YouTube. It's very uncomfortable to watch. I don't know how many people are actually watching it all, watching it play out. I think there's probably like, you know, like you can't turn away from a car crash kind of mentality. But I find it very uncomfortable. Now, I don't watch Jodisue a lot these days. I used to. But since the 9th of May, when I realised that she was just BSing about Summer's case, too many red flags about Summer's case, I stopped watching her unless there's something significant that I need to kind of tune into. I want to issue kind of a word of warning, really, to everybody watching this, that we don't really know what we're watching. Domestic violence goes on behind closed doors most of the time. Quite often, family members don't know what's going on because the victim will keep it secret. They don't know how much the victim is being ground down, is having their self-respect eroded, their self-worth is on the floor. They've got no idea because it's secret. In some cases, family members are aware, but the victim will play it down, will deny, will stick up for the perpetrator, even if certain acts of violence have been witnessed by family members. And children, if there's children in the relationship, get stuck in the middle of this. And this is exactly what's happened to Jodisue's children. Now, the eldest is an adult. He can choose to make his own decisions, but he's grown up in an environment that's been conflictual. And hopefully that's not had too much of an impact on him. We know that being in the middle of conflicting parents can have a huge effect on some kids, but not all by all means. But there's the youngest, the 14-year-old girl, who's there sitting day after day in the camper with Jodisue when she should be a teenager. She should be going to school, going out with friends, and should have the option of seeing her dad if she wants to. And the way that Jodisue talks about Andy, even if everything she says is true, is a problem. Is a problem, because that girl is absorbing all of that negativity. She's absorbing all of that. And it's not good for her mental health. It really isn't. Jodisue and Andy were together for 26 years. And the relationship only ended because Andy chose to end it. He met someone else, Becca, who Jodisue calls coleslaw, or she used to. I don't know whether she still does. Jodisue would not have been talking like she is about Andy had he not left her from someone else. Now, I understand it must have been horrible to be left like that after 26 years of being together. She's been with him since she was 11 years old. it must have been one hell of a shock. It's a complete change of lifestyle. Andy was paying for everything. Jodisue's been evicted from 125 Ben Hill Road, you know, the property that she was so readily able to defend, you know, land rights, history, and all of this, trying to keep in with the Bernards, right? But the vitriol that she's had against Andy, she's played out on YouTube since September. She's been speaking about Summer's case, she's been speaking on domestic violence before that on Facebook. But once she came over to YouTube, she collected an audience who have slowly seen her for what she's done to Summer's case. And now there's a whole question mark on how much she said about Andy as a monster is actually true, because she's told so many lies. It's like playing wolf. Now, would Jodisue still be with Andy? You know, would she have been the little woman ground down by an abusive man for 26 years and not be able to make that move herself? Maybe. Lots of people are in that situation, even if they can physically leave, even if they've got family members who they could go to, even if they're not in immediate physical danger if they do leave. They choose not to because their self-respect is so low and they're trauma bonded to their perpetrator. It's called learned helplessness, and it's been studied in psychology for a long time. There was a guy called Martin Seligman, just out of his PhD, young man. He's still out there doing psychology, but this is what he did experiments on dogs. I've got a video on it in Michelle Walks, because some of the first videos I did on YouTube were about unethical psychology, and this is one of the most unethical experiments I've ever seen. Go and check it out. I'll leave a link to it in the cards. Hardly anybody saw these videos, but they're there. There's a little playlist called Unethical Psychology. Anyway, Martin Seligman put dogs in cages with electrified floors. Yes, you heard me. Electrified floors. And then he would give these dogs electric shocks every so often. So the dogs learned that pain was coming, but they didn't know when. What is that? No idea. They knew pain was coming, but they didn't know when. Tilly, come here. Tilly. Dog up there. Come here. You haven't even seen it, have you? You're losing your touch. But these dogs became so traumatised, lost every ounce of self-worth that they had. So much so that when the door was open, the dog could have left and escaped, they didn't. They just led, cowed in the corner, just expecting more and more pain. And those experiments have been used in psychology to explain things like trauma bonding in domestic violence. Sometimes, yes, it's the fear of physical reprisal and stalking if they leave, but it's also about the psychology, about the emotional state of the victim. So, in Jodisue and Andy's case, did Jodisue not leave because she was in a state of learned helplessness? I can't say she wasn't, but having seen Jodisue over the last 14 months talk about Summer, how outspoken she's been, how much she's lied. Yes, it's disturbing, but does it look like learned helplessness to me? No, it doesn't. But she could be hiding that learned helplessness. She could be hiding the lack of self-esteem in this nonsense that she's been spouting, making herself seem more important than she is. It's just a thought. I don't know. I can't say one way or another. But she would not be talking about him now online if he hadn't left and left her for someone else. She wouldn't do it. She really would not have done it. That's something I'm 100% sure on. She would not have left him, and we wouldn't have heard anything about domestic violence. Tilly, come here. Tilly. This way. Tilly, this way. What a clown.
6.5 hours later.
What? Oh. But there's two sides to every story. And we've not been able to hear Andy's side because Jodisue took an order of protection out against him. Now, he's admitted to hitting her. He's admitted to shouting at the kids. He's admitted to some of the things she said. There was an excellent live stream by Gavel Geeks channel. 9 hours of it. Yeah, I watched it all. Andy was on there. He's out speaking now because the order of protection has gone. The date has passed by. She can't get another order of protection because Andy's not done anything to her to warrant it. There's his side, there's her side, and then somewhere in the middle, there's probably the truth. I think she's been lying. I don't know how I feel about Andy yet, honestly. I think there is a lot of truth in what Andy says. I think she's been overbearing. I think she's been emotionally abusive. I think she's driven him. Doesn't excuse physical violence. It doesn't excuse the other party, but it explains it. That there's only so far somebody can be pushed before they lash out. And male survivors of domestic violence so very rarely speak out. And what I think this situation is a case of situational couple violence, which I've talked about before in videos on domestic violence. This isn't a case of intimate terrorism where there's a victim who is scared, who is terrified, who is in fear of their life, and there is a monster who is terrorising them and possibly their children. That's what Jodisue's portrayed. But I think it's actually the other type of domestic violence that we're looking at here. It used to be called common couple violence because it's the most common type of domestic dispute, domestic conflict. It's now called situational couple violence because both parties are victims and both parties are perpetrators. It can be at different times. There can be certain triggers, certain situational factors. Jodisue's talked about that Andy would be worse at holidays and things like that. Well, there's extra stress at holiday times. We don't know what stress Andy was under. We don't know even if Jodisue is telling the truth about any of this because she's lied so many times she's cried wolf. Andy sounds very convincing. I want to believe him. I want to believe that he's moved on and he's going to have a better life and that the things that Jodisue has done to him, he can heal from and eventually he can have a relationship with his daughter. But I do not doubt that he has been abusive as well. So I don't want to put him there on a pedestal and say, you know, Andy's a great guy. Because I don't know that. I don't know that he is a great guy. But I do think that he has suffered from abuse. And he made the decision to leave. And I think absolutely was the right one. Because that relationship was toxic. 14-year-old girl is still stuck in the middle. Which is really, really sad. But soon enough, she'll be of age. And she can make her own decisions. I just hope she hasn't been too damaged in the process. But just let me tell you, you know, it's one of my areas of expertise. When I was a psychologist, don't talk about it very often, but it is. And men can be victims too. Men can be every which way the same type of victims as women can. Just that it's been a topic that's been shrouded in silence for so long. And we've got to remember that there's two sides to every story. Andy's just as entitled to tell his side of the story as Jodisue is. Jodisue has made up a lot of stuff about Andy. I don't know how he's kept his cool, you know, I really don't. And you can get a picture of how he might have been treated. And it's easy to imagine him as the victim and Jodisue as the perpetrator. It's very easy to imagine that that was the case. And Andy's violence was lashing out. It was because he was so ground down. That's one way to look at it, but we don't know because it goes on behind closed doors. But on Gavel Geek's live stream, not only was Andy there, but also Jodisue's sister. That was very interesting. She says Andy's a great guy. They've been friends since they were little kids. They went to elementary school together. That might be the case, but you know, sometimes family members who are not there in people's lives all the time don't see the full scope of what's going on. But she did say some really interesting things, and again, Jodisue's made out to be the liar. I think Amy's sick of people contacting her and contacting her mother, but she's told us some things that Jodisue again and again has lied. Amy swears down that Jodisue was at her brother's side when he died a few months ago. Jodisue, I distinctly remember her saying that YouTube has stopped her finding out about her brother's death. Absolute blatant lie. I mean, it's unforgivable. Some of the things are just unbelievable and unforgivable. So it's easy to take Andy's side, it really is. It really is easy to take Andy's side. Now I'm trying to kind of step away and wait to see what else develops. Should this be being playing out on YouTube? No. But Jodisue has put it all out there, and quite frankly, Andy does have the right to reply. And people can choose whether or not they want to watch it. But there's a 14-year-old girl stuck in the middle. And there's a then 5-year-old girl who's had her whole case tainted by Jodisue, who's just been, by lots of things, playing games. So I'll leave it there for today. Let me know your thoughts below. I've been Michelle, hope you're well. See you in the next video. Goodbye from Miss Tillington and Miss Cassie Springer, who's right over there doing, I don't know what. Where's she going? I can't whistle, my lips are dry.
One eternity later.
Alright guys, bye bye. Oh, now where's she going? Oh, she's waiting, good.